Hey everyone, it's Sammy from Push Square, and this week Sony invited me to check out a ton of PlayStation VR games. So I figured I'd make a video telling you about what I saw, but the thing is, I'm really sorry, but I'm making this video in the most ridiculous rush imaginable. So apologies for any lighting problems or focus issues, but I haven't got time to fix them. So let's dive into it. So the first game that I played was Resident Evil 7. Now this was the same demo that released on the PlayStation Store after the game was announced at E3 earlier in the year. And that worked out quite well for me because I hadn't actually had chance to play that demo yet. So I was really looking forward to trying it, and to get to do it in VR was really cool. Now I should stress that this was probably the worst looking VR demo that I saw on the day. And I think the reason for that is that the game is being designed with traditional standard 2D televisions in mind first and foremost. And I don't want to say that VR is an afterthought, but it's probably not the primary way that Capcom expects most people to play the game. And so it's kind of been a little bit shoehorned in. But maybe that's unfair on the game because it does still look good. And the thing about VR is that it really heightens tension. If you think about a horror game, normally you can look away from the screen, you can go and talk to someone else, you can even change the channel if you want, right? But with VR, you're in there. There's no escape. Yes, you can close your eyes, but when you open them again, you're going to see something horrible anyway. You know, you can't escape from it unless you physically take the headset off, and that really amps up the tension in a horror game. And while this demo isn't particularly scary, nothing really happens. There is one segment where there are like mannequin dolls and they kind of move position when you're not looking, and that's really cool in VR because you're like, wait, that wasn't there, that's over there now, you know what I mean? So that was really, really cool. And I'm looking forward to playing the whole game in VR, but I think this is going to be interesting because I like horror games, but you can really feel the tension amplified when you are in VR. And it's going to be interesting to see how far they can push horror in VR, because honestly, it's going to be too intense for some people. If you can't handle it on a 2D screen, then you've got no chance in VR. Like I say, I'm pretty resistant to horror now, but in VR, it's a whole different story, and I could feel the sweat beads forming when I was playing this demo, and it's not even that scary. So when actual scary stuff happens, I think I'm going to be screaming like a little girl. But yeah, it was pretty cool. I'm excited to play the full game, but it definitely wasn't the best VR demo that they had on display at this particular event. The second game that I played probably was one of the better VR demos that I've seen, and this is a game called Farpoint. Now, the cool thing about this game is that Sony's made a VR gun for it. Now, for those of you who are familiar with the Move, you'll probably remember the sharpshooter, which was kind of like a shell that you could slot the PlayStation Move wand into, and you could slot the navigation controller into. This new gun feels much better than that. It's not made up of different components, and they've kind of just put all the buttons, the move bulbs at the end, and it's got an analog stick, and it's got all the face buttons and all of the sort of controls that you'd expect. But the cool thing about it is because it's tracking your positioning in relation to your head, you can kind of look at the gun and bring it up and kind of inspect it in close detail. And they've done tons of work on the gun models so that they look really detailed and really interesting to sort of inspect in your hands. But another cool thing about this game is because you've got the gun in your hand, instead of doing kind of Call of Duty L1 aim down sights thing, you bring the gun up to your face and you can like focus down the barrel of the gun, and you get like a little infrared dot that helps you to aim, and that is super fun. I cannot stress enough how fun that is, to just simple act of pulling the gun up to your headset and aiming down the sights. I had a ton of fun with that. It's basically Starship Troopers. The environments weren't that interesting. They're a kind of Mars setting, which was very bland. There wasn't much to see there, but they did do some cool tricks with the VR stuff. So there's one section where you have to cross a ravine, and the thing about VR is everything looks really big, so you're looking down over this kind of massive drop beneath you, and that's quite scary and gives you a bit of a sense of vertigo. And later towards the end of the demo, you're basically shooting these insects, but at the very end of the demo they bring out this massive one that's like, it feels like it's the size of like a block of flats or something. It's super cool. I think it's going to be a novelty game, and the most important thing about this is that they bundle it with the gun, because that's part of the whole appeal. But if they could get, say, a major developer like a Call of Duty or a Battlefield with this peripheral, that would be huge, because I thought it controlled really nicely, and like I say, it was super fun aiming down the sights. I really liked that game, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of it. The third game that I played was Batman Arkham VR. Now this was super cool. It starts out in Wayne Manor, and a Michael Caine-esque Alfred comes and tells you that there's been a distress call and you need to investigate it, basically. So he gives you a key, which you reach out and you grab with the Move controller, and you then put that in the piano and turn it to open up and reveal the keys, and you can play a little tune which takes you down into the Batcave. Now, as I was saying before about Farpoint, the sense of scale is gigantic. There's a waterfall off in the distance, and it feels like you're just in this huge cavernous space, but your focus is placed on getting prepared as the Batman. So your suit comes down in front of you on like a kind of conveyor belt type machine, and you reach out and grab it and pull it towards your chest to put it on. Then you have to put on your gloves, and you of course have to apply the cowl as well. So you do all this with two Move controllers in each of your hands, and kind of the triggers on the back is kind of your grab buttons. And then once you've put all your clothes on, a mirror comes down in front of you, and it lets you see yourself, and you're of course the Batman. So as you start moving your head, like, you can see you're dressed as the Batman, and the mirror is copying your movements, which is very cool. But the actual game part of it itself centers around Nightwing, who has basically been killed, and it's a murder mystery. You need to reconstruct what happened to him. And if you've played Arkham Knight or the other Arkham games, you'll know they kind of do these detective sequences where you piece together a crime, and that's what happens in this demo. But the cool thing is that you're in a rain-slicked Gotham City alleyway, and the crime is taking place around you, or the reconstruction of it at least. So you're seeing Nightwing battle and fight with this mysterious attacker, and it's all going on all around you, and you basically need to click the trigger when you think he sustains an injury. And I was really impressed with this. They're saying that it's only about an hour long, but there's a reason to replay it again, because there are hidden secrets and all sorts of stuff like that. But it's being sold for $15.99 on the UK PlayStation Store, which sounds kind of steep, but when you think about it, you don't pay much less to go and see a 90-minute movie, and this is going to let you be the Batman for an hour and a half. How much would you pay to be Batman for 90 minutes? I'd pay $15.99. So yeah, I was super impressed with this. The visuals were very good. Some VR demos can look a little bit blurry, but this one looked super clean, and not clean in the sense of it was shiny or bright or anything like that. It was murky. It was like a Batman Arkham game, but I mean clean as in everything looked very clear, and it felt like you were in Gotham City, which is awesome, isn't it? Now, the fourth game that I played was a game called Robinson the Journey. Now, when I was growing up, and I guess it comes around in cycles, but dinosaurs were massive. Jurassic Park was huge. Walking with Dinosaurs on the BBC was huge. And this is a game about dinosaurs, which is very cool. Basically, you are shipwrecked, I guess, on an alien planet, which just so happens to be inhabited by dinosaurs. So in the demo that I played first, there are like velociraptors that are trying to get to you, but they can't quite reach you. And then later on in the demo, you happen across a diplodocus who doesn't want to move out of the way. So you have to kind of pick up little objects and throw them so you can knock these buds off a tree, and it will go and eat them and move out of your way. A lot of the demo focused on kind of climbing, so the L2 and R2 triggers on the DualShock 4 operate each hand, and you have to climb up basically rock faces and stuff like that. And it felt like a bit of an exploration game, really. There wasn't a lot going on. You weren't shooting the dinosaurs or anything like that. Maybe that happens later in the game, but it certainly wasn't in this demo. But I quite liked the idea of being on this planet where there are dinosaurs walking around and there's all this interesting foliage and stuff to see. So yeah, that was really good. And to recycle that point that I've made a few times now, the sense of scale is amazing. I mentioned the Diplodocus type thing. When that is towering over you, it's super cool. It feels like there's a massive, massive beast looking at you. And that's really exciting. I love the sense of scale. And it's something that is hard to explain, because if you haven't experienced it, then you can't really imagine it. But when you're in these worlds, when you're in PlayStation VR, everything feels bigger. You're not constrained to the size of a TV. And even if you've got the biggest TV in the world, it will still feel bigger in VR because you're surrounded by the world around you, the virtual world around you. So yeah, Robinson the Journey is an interesting one. I don't know where it's going to go or what the final game is going to be like, but I like the demo and I love the idea of there being dinosaurs. So yeah, I'm quite interested in that one. And the fifth and final game that I played is PlayStation VR Worlds. Now, I feel a little bit sorry for London Studio because it's clear they've invested tons of time and money and effort into getting this first batch of VR off the ground. But the game that they're actually putting out isn't really that interesting. It's kind of like a hodgepodge of different tech demos. It's got the London heist that we've all seen many times before, and the Deep, which is the one where you go into the ocean and get attacked by a shark. So I didn't bother playing either of those because I've seen them before, but I did check out some of the other games that are on the Blu-ray that you get with this package, and one of them is called Danger Ball. And basically, I don't know if you've ever played Curveball, which was a Flash game on web browsers and stuff, and you basically control this paddle with your head, and you bounce a ball back to your opponent. It's in 3D. It's Pong 3D basically. You bounce a ball back to your opponent, and he bounces it back. But you can put spin on it by arching and craning your neck in different directions as you hit the ball. It's pretty fun. I don't know how long that's going to last, but it was pretty fun, I guess. And the different opponents that you have in this game all have different abilities. So one has a fan on his paddle and he can blow the ball back quicker. Another can duplicate the ball, so you've got to hit back too. Super fun, I guess, but it's not going to last long, is it? It's kind of a 10-minute distraction kind of thing. The other demo on PlayStation VR Worlds that I tried was probably the worst thing that I played on the day, and it's called Scavenger's Odyssey. Now, I haven't had any problems with nausea or sickness playing VR at all, but this one really got me. You're in like you're piloting kind of a, I don't know what you call it, a mech, I guess, with guns on the side, and you're in outer space, and this mech can jump. So you can jump up onto walls and climb up walls and then go across the ceiling, which is a nice idea, but it really made me feel a bit nauseous when the perspective was constantly changing. And the other thing is you have to aim by looking, which I didn't like either. So yeah, PlayStation VR Worlds, like I say, I'm going to be excited to see what London Studio do next, because this one feels like it's a bunch of tech demos that they made and spent too much money on, and now are having to put on a disc and sell to try and recoup some of the costs. But they've been pivotal to getting PlayStation VR off the ground, so hopefully Sony cuts them a break when this inevitably gets low review scores. But anyway, those are the games that I got to try out. I'm still super excited for VR. It's exciting to have something different in the pipeline. And yeah, I know a lot of people are skeptical, but I truly do think when you play it, you're going to be maybe not sold on it, but you're going to see where I'm coming from, because it is exciting tech. Hopefully Sony can keep supporting it. Hopefully the launch is good. There are a ton of games coming to this thing. Sony's assembled quite a decent lineup of software, so it should do pretty well. And if they can keep that stream coming, and if the second phase of content improves upon this first batch, stuff like Batman Arkham VR and Farpoint are really, really fun. So I hope they can keep getting better with this stuff. And I'm excited to see where it goes. I've always been a believer in this tech, but The novelty hasn't worn off for me yet, and I'm really excited to get my hands on the retail unit when it releases on 13th of October. But let me know what you think in the comments section below, and I promise you I'm going to shut up now. Thanks so much for watching.